So the Packers have their new defensive coordinator, and no, it's not Jimmy Leonard, even though it feels like almost every Packers fan and Wisconsin fan and their fifth cousin from a previous marriage wanted this to happen. But it's Jonathan Gannon, the former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals and former defensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I know a lot of fans, not all of them, but there's a good chunk of fans that are already hating this hiring because, well, the Cardinals sucked, so he must be an awful defensive coordinator. That's not the be-all, tell-all as Gannon as head coach. The Cardinals' defense, a lot like the Packers last year, they were pretty solid in the first half until the injuries bit them in the butt. And I know the next question for fans is going to be, what kind of style of defense is Jonathan Gannon going to run? Well, if we look at his history, he doesn't have a set scheme. He's stated that on the record before. He wants to put players in a position to succeed. He does have a heavy influence from Mike Zimmer with a little bit of a shade of a Vic Fangio style of defense as well. But I think one thing that we could probably get a good gauge or a good guess on what he's going to do or what he's going to run is a lot of an umbrella or a shell style of defense, a lot of cover three. So if you're Xavier McKinney, you're going to be tasked to do a lot in this style of defense. And another thing I'm really curious about is to see how he utilizes McKinney, Evan Williams, and Javon Bullard, because Gannon has used a variation of playing three safeties at once in this style of defense. So does that mean that maybe Javon Bullard moves to a more traditional safety type out of that slot role? Something to kind of watch when we get into, preseason training camp and the regular season for the next season. But now it's up to Goody and the front office to get better depth at the defensive line and the cornerback position. Get some pieces around it to replenish this defense. Gannon has some solid pieces to work with at every level, obviously with McKinney, Micah Parsons, and Edrin Cooper. So, Packers fans, before you judge this hire, before we even get to a game with him as defensive coordinator, I ask you, let's see this thing play out. Okay, let's see this thing play out. Obviously, Matt LaFleur, I think, looked at, some of the coordinators, wanted a guy with a defensive backs pedigree background, like Jeff Hafley and such, but a former head coach, also, essentially going to be the head coach of the defense. I think that all factored into this as well, but let's see it all play out.